Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. I hope y'all are doing really well. Today I am back in the world of Strangerville once again to build a Victorian home in that affluent neighborhood that is overlooking the entire town. This world, I mean, you guys, this world is amazing. It's so pretty. I love how it looks like Utah or out west, and it's so nice. I love this world. I love this story. I love everything about it. So I know I'm late to the party when it comes to Strangerville, but it's great. And I've been wanting to build with the furnishings that we got with this pack that are sort of Victorianish. So like those really ornate like doors and windows and all of the stuff like the porch and the columns. Like I've been dying to build with that for so long. So I decided to just bite the bullet and take the time to build a really nice Victorian. And boy, did this take me a long time to build. I worked on this for an entire weekend pretty much, but it turns out really nice. I really like this house. Oh, I want to live in it. I don't want a Victorian home, but if I were to get a Victorian home, it would be one that was kind of like this. Now, a couple of notes on this lot. So this is the lot at the very back of the neighborhood up at the top of the world. It is the one that on the very back that is vacant. So I didn't have to demolish anything to build on this. I just decided to go ahead and do it. It is a 30 by 20 lot, I believe. So it's sort of in the medium to larger side, I suppose. I don't build very many large houses, so I'm not really sure what the lot sizes are for the really big ones. But anyhow, also I apologize for building in the rain. I think, yeah, here I am fixing that. Anyhow, I made my little sim that I created for this change the weather. But anyway, like I said, I'm really excited for how this turned out. I hope you guys really like it. Like I said, I was looking for any excuse to use those sort of like cathedral windows that came with Strangerville because those are perfect. They're so pretty. So I decided to use this on this build. Finally got the floor plan down, or at least the exterior part of the build together, enough to where I could start kind of decorating and picking out doors and windows. Of course, I just went crazy with all of the Strangerville features and fixtures because they're just so cute. And most of the time, those cathedral windows don't work just on everyday houses, especially for ones that aren't in this neighborhood or in Strangerville in particular. I guess it could work if you have like this exact kind of neighborhood in another world, but I do not have any other I have a couple of Victorian houses, but they're not this traditionally Victorian, if that makes any sense. So anyhow, yeah, like I've said a million times, I was so excited to play around with this pack and see how I could make it work, and I had a blast making this. Victorians are usually very hard for me because they're very ornate and they've got all kinds of weird like little rooms, and everything is its own separate room. There's not very many open floor plans for Victorians, so I was really happy with how this turned out. I was kind of proud of myself actually for doing something kind of outside my comfort zone, but I did settle on this sort of like honey wood chestnut color, I suppose, as well as that dark sort of dusty gray blue that I've got on that exterior trim that you can see right there, as well as the siding. I found that siding that matched that color scheme, so I decided to go with the white for that, and I think that color scheme works pretty well. I don't stick with that color scheme inside, obviously. I just kind of stick with that for this exterior part, and then the inside turns much more brown, which we'll find out more about that when we get inside. But just doing a little bit on the porch right here, I go of course with those Strangerville columns. I don't know if you can hear me slurping right now. I've got, this is one of my longer videos. It's not a long video. It's only like 25 minutes, but for longer videos, sometimes I make myself a cup of tea. It helps me relax, and it helps me realize that I can sit and talk to nothing for half an hour. So if you hear me slurping ever so often, that's what that is. I love tea. I'm such a grandmother. It's finally cold where I'm at, y'all. I've made it. I've survived the awful summer that we've had here. It's finally cold enough. I'm in a sweatshirt right now, drinking tea and talking to you all about my little Victorian Sims house. God, I'm such a grandmother. Anyhow, doing a little bit on the exterior here, I cut out a lot of footage of me going through the live edit objects menu because I'm still trying to make myself familiar with all of the plants and all of the bushes and shrubs and things like that we have with that new cheat. So yeah, bear with me. I did cut out quite a bit of footage of me going through and placing random bushes in the world that I might want to use later. I really hate that we can't clone them. That's very frustrating. So I found myself placing like 3 bushes just in case I decided I did want to use them. But anyhow, this is pretty much what I decided to go with. Those shrubs around the round part of the porch, I do not keep. I end up getting rid of those and going with some that came with base game. Here we go. Those right there. I was asking my husband, I was like, do these look good? And he told me that I should go with those. I do size them down so that they kind of fit a little bit better in there and sort of wrap around that round part of the porch without it looking too blocky. So anyway, that's what I decided to do there. I also decided to use the hydrangeas as sort of my like feature flower. I'm trying to do better about not just putting random flowers in different places. A lot of people that I have been watching recently have been featuring that as sort of like a tip, as to pick like 1 or 2 kinds of flowers and just kind of stick with that. So that's what I've kind of been trying to do with this one. This house in general. So I did imagine that it's sort of Halloween, not a Halloween house. I put a couple of pumpkins around and about to because it's fall in this game that I'm playing right now. So I decided to put a couple of pumpkins on the porch, and I do put a couple of more inside. A little note about this lot in general and the household that I want to live here. So I decided to make this lot a haunted lot. It is a peace and quiet lot, and it's also one where one can be creative and get the creative juices flowing. So those are the 3 lot traits that I gave this lot. I have created a sim that's going to live here. You can see him standing out front. That's not what he's going to look like, and it was the random generated sim. I just needed one so that I could take the screenshots, but I do plan to go back and kind of help create him a little bit. So his story, I decided that he is an author who has very successful. He has decided to buy this big manor, this big Victorian home, and use it as his place where he likes to write and where he gets his inspiration. I imagine that he is a horror writer, or maybe he will become a horror writer now that he's moved into a haunted house. We'll see. But I thought it was a story that was really exciting and really fun. I'm currently reading The Haunting of Hill House, the book, actually, right now, and it is so good. And if you have read the book The Haunting of Hill House, I do kind of imagine that this sim that lives here is kind of like a Dr. Montague character a little bit. He's interested in the paranormal, and he's just trying to like get some hard evidence for it, I suppose, while also documenting it and writing about it, which you'll see some more of those features when we move inside the house and like how I decided to decorate his study and all of that. But anyway, that's kind of what I was thinking of while I was creating this house. And I do imagine that he has a daughter or a son, sort of like a child age son or daughter that doesn't live with him all the time, but like comes and stays like Christmas time or maybe a couple of weeks out of the summer, but doesn't necessarily live with him all the time. So I do have a child's room inside, and it is very sparsely decorated, and I'll talk more about that when I get there. But I do imagine that's his story. Like, he doesn't have full custody of his kid, and he, maybe when they try to visit, he tries to make things fun for them, but he's also kind of aloof because he's very dedicated to his work. So anyway, another household that I'm excited to play with. I don't play as much as I should with the households that I create. I always say that I'm going to, and I always find them so fascinating. So I need to take some time and actually decide to, pick a house and play with it. But I've never played with a house that's haunted before, like actually has the haunted lot trait. So I'm kind of excited. I have talked over pretty much the entire exterior. But anyway, so what I am doing here, in case you're wondering, I decided to try to make like a porch swing sitting back there. So I took that bench that we got from Cats and Dogs and I raised it up a little bit and put flowers underneath it. I probably should have put something else, but anyway, to try to make it look like it's hanging off the ground. And then I put a few like debug like rod things in there to make it look like I sized them down and try to make it look like rope. I don't know. It was a good idea in theory. I'm kind of glad it's behind those trees because it doesn't look perfect, but if you glance at it, it doesn't look half bad. But you are going to see me start to move inside now, finally. I feel like exteriors for like homes this large take so long. Oh my goodness. Another sip of tea to start the kitchen. Anyway, so you are seeing me move inside, like I said, to the kitchen. The kitchen is at the back of this house. I do create another door to the backyard right here to the left here in a few minutes, but for the kitchen does not necessarily match the style of the rest of the house. I imagine that the author who lives here has decided to, maybe he wants to renovate a few of these rooms. He's not quite done and he's not quite where he wants to be, but he has sort of done the kitchen. It's not completely modern. It's just got more of a modern touch than say like the rest of the house does. And when you see me decorate the rest of the house, you'll kind of understand how that is. I was going to go with this like brown color, or you saw me before I changed it, that brown color fridge and that stove, but it was too chocolatey and it didn't exactly match the like honey color that I've got going for the rest of the house. I do keep the countertops right here and the chocolate color in the shelves, but other than that, I decided to go with more of the white and the gray and things like that kind of matched both the exterior and the tile that I decided to put in here. So just wanted to explain that little quick change right there. I also changed those cabinets, but I kept this kitchen very open and very clean for the most part. I put a couple of clutter objects on those floating shelves, but otherwise I decided to keep it very tidy. I imagine that this author, he's very busy with work, so pretty much the only non-tidy room in this home is his study, which again, like I said, we will get to, but I decided to decorate this to be cluttered but neat. So like everything has its place, everything has a place where it goes on the shelves, and it's not just random stuff. Some of it is random stuff like little decorations, but I decided to pick ones that look sort of like antiques, or maybe some original furnishings that the author found in the house and just decided to keep around as decoration. Speaking of, I kind of glossed over this. I want to know in the comments, let me know if you have ever read the Haunting of Hill House book. If you know anything that's good, you've seen the Netflix series and it is fantastic. I watched the Netflix series first and decided to read the book for Halloween this year, and it's sensational. They're both sensational. They're quite different though. So if you have read or watched Haunting of Hill House, either one, let me know in the comments so we can chat about it, because I'm not finished with the book yet, but it's so good. Oh, I love it. So I didn't necessarily mean to have it at the forefront of my mind while I was building this house, but it just kind of happened. So I imagine that this house, like I said, it's haunted and it has a past, and I'm not exactly sure what that past is, but I imagine that it does affect our author friend in some capacity or another. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens and see where his little story goes. But just wanted to explain a little bit of the backstory in my head as I was building this, because it's very pivotal to like how I create. I've really could not recommend highly enough creating a story and creating characters in your head and people who are going to live in this house and like how they might decorate and things like that, because it is a lifesaver when it comes to like furnishing things or like picking styles. It just really saves you a lot of time and headache, and as someone who spends ages picking out wallpapers and things like that, it's such a help. So just wanted to throw that little bit of information at you, little tip from me to you. But anyway, you're going to see me move away from the kitchen. It's pretty much finished, and I'm going to move on to this little sitting area right here. It's very much a formal living room. I don't put a TV in this house. I imagine that the author just works and he just writes, and that's pretty much all that he likes to do. He doesn't really watch TV. He has a laptop that he could stream if he wants to, but he doesn't really feel like I do put a TV on this shelf to begin with and decide not to because it just doesn't really fit. And yeah, just didn't think he'd watch it very much. So tea again. There we go. I did go with this base. I think it's base game. Maybe it's Get Together. Yes, it's Get Together. I went with this Get Together couch and love seat and the little chair in that dark brown color. I thought it was old enough to where it looked like it belonged in the original home here, but new enough to where you could tell that maybe the person who lives here, he's bought it recently, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I chose that, and I also chose that little skinny coffee table to go with it. You're seeing me put a few clutter items around and about. I included those books specifically. I think they came with vampires because they're all about the occult and things like that, and ghosts and all of those things. And I just think a lot of the pictures of people that we get with like vampires and things like that, all of those packs, those look so cool. So I've got a lot of those around the house. I've got the picture of that lady above the fireplace, and then I'm going to move on to the dining room. Didn't spend too long cluttering it up, saves quite a bit of time. But anyway, picked this really long antique looking dining table as well as those chairs to match, and that really cool chandelier. I actually took the time in this build, if you've noticed, I use curtains. So be proud of me. I used curtains, and I actually took the time to pick light fixtures that look right in the room. So once again, I'm moving on up in the world of building Sims. But anyway, I put that dining table there, and I don't know if you saw me place it, but it was that lighted shelf that has all of the like wine bottles and spirit bottles. I thought that looked really cool. I thought it was sort of like a modern like piece that the author might have put in this room, even though he's not necessarily gotten around to completely renovating the entire thing. So put that really creepy candelabra in there, as well as a plant and a couple of other things. I realized that I talked over my creation of the greenhouse, but I do imagine that the author is very, he likes plants. He doesn't have a ton in his house, but he does like to garden and take care of the landscaping of his home and all of that. So that's a trait that I might give him eventually. And then I decided to use this front sort of like parlor area. I put a couple of bookshelves in. Those are the ones that came with Strangerville, as well as that baby grand piano. I never use the piano. It's such a huge item, and it's very hard to find places to fit it in most of the builds that I do. So decided to put it in there with a couple paintings and just kind of leave it at that. And then I put in a little sort of hallway table right there with the mat picture and a couple of little clutter items, just kind of like a lamp and a couple of books, and very, not sterile, but just clean. Like, this house is very neat. It's very clean. He knows what he's doing. Like I said, the only part of this house that is very cluttered is his study, which, like I said, we'll get to at the end of this build. And then going to the entryway, I decided to put in, of course, my normal entryway things. I've got my little umbrella caddy as well as a mirror, and I think I do put the coat rack in. Yes, I do. There it is. And then I wasn't really sure what to do with this area was right here. I usually put like a desk here and a computer, but I mean, if he's got a study, he doesn't need another place for a computer, so I left it blank for now. I might go back later and try to find something to put in there. I was kind of struggling with just what to do with I've already got so many entryway tables that I use in this build that I couldn't justify doing another one, but excuse me, inhaled that tea a little hard. Ooh. Anyway, moving on to the kids' room. I've not decided if it's a boy or a girl. I decided to make it gender neutral just so that I can make it whatever I decide when I decide to do that household. But anyhow, I decided that in the story about this kid in my head. So like I said, they don't live with him all the time. It's just maybe on holidays or during summer break. So I decided to make the room very bare bones. Like maybe they've only stayed in here a couple of nights. So I put a bed and a dresser and basic things that, a child would need. But I did not put very many toys in here. I just put a couple of things, a couple of posters on the walls that maybe he or she liked. And then I kept it very, very minimal. I put the little teddy bear in there, maybe as a gift to the kid or something like, hey, happy to have you here. But other than that, I did not include anything. I put those couple of boxes in the corner. They're supposed to be like art projects, I think, that came with parenthood, but I decided to use them as sort of like moving boxes. So maybe they have just arrived for their summer break and they're just getting settled into their new haunted bedroom, which again is an exciting story that I'd really, really like to play with. But anyway, moving on to the author's bedroom himself. Nothing super exciting about this room. I went with the sort of like wood colored bed to match the rest of the house, and I just love that green swatch that has like the plaid on it. I think I used that bed in my last build, actually. Yeah, I think I did. It's so great though. It's such a great base game bed. Like most of the beds that we got from base game aren't necessarily my favorite, but that one is really, really nice. It's got some nice colors. And I decided to use this home as an opportunity to basically experiment with the sort of like patterned wallpapers that we have, both with base game and the ones with vampires. And they're really nice. Like I usually don't build homes where like those wallpapers are necessarily appropriate, but I really, really liked them for this build. And I also found out that there are not as many curtains that I despise as I previously thought, so that's great. But yeah, just basically cluttering up the bedroom here, putting in a rug, a couple of night tables, a dresser and a mirror, and a couple of art pieces, and that's pretty much it. I think I also give him a couple of plants and maybe a couple of like book clutter items, like maybe some of his books and clutter from his study has kind of made its way into his bedroom. Who knows? But I decided to keep it fairly minimal in there. I do put a couple of like cologne, and I think I eventually put some like shirts or something else in there. It's a little bit cluttered because it's his personal space, but again, keeping up with the theme of the rest of the house, it's very, not sterile. I keep wanting to say sterile. It's not sterile, it's clean. But yeah, filling out this hallway a little bit right here. I've got that sort of like very formal painting with the flowers and things over the top. And then I decided to put in that Tiffany lamp and the phonograph. I thought that looked kind of cool and seemed like a fixture that one would find in a house like this. But then you're going to see me move on to, where do I go next? Bathroom? Guessing game? I think so. Yes. Bathroom. God, I apologize. It's been, like I said, I've worked on this building for so long that I can't remember the exact order in which I did things. And I just finished editing this too, so that's not an excuse. I should know what's coming up next. So I apologize for not being completely prepared. But anyway, like I said, I am moving into the bathroom right here, putting in that vampire's tub. I thought that was kind of cool for this bathroom. So this home is 2.5 baths to go with its like 3 official bedrooms. So I've got the 2 bathrooms up here, and then I had a half bath downstairs. I did not include that in the final edited version for this video just because it's extremely boring. It was only a sink and a toilet, and that's it, and a mirror, and there was nothing else. And it took me a while to kind of come up with the tile and things like that. So I got bored building building it, so I was like, I can't imagine anyone watching me do this. So I cut that out, but here I am decorating these 2 bathrooms up top. They're very, very similar. I use that same tile work on both of them, and I use pretty much the same toilet, and the showers are a little bit different, but other than that, they're bathrooms. I wasn't inspired by them very much. And then you're gonna see me move on to the author's study. So here we have his little desk area that he's got, and I put that really fancy chair in there, as well as some of those curtains, and you're just gonna see me clutter it the heck up, and it was really kind of fun to do. I included a lot of my newfound favorite clutter items from Strangerville, all of the paperwork and all of the boxes of paperwork. I just imagined that it was just research on research on research for the paranormal, and for maybe this house in particular. Maybe he's researching this home and the history of it, or the history of Strangerville and all of the ghosts and things like that. Like I said, it's finally cool where I am, so I'm feeling ghosty as I can be. I'm so spooky, I can't stand it. So that's kind of where my brain is right now with all of my Sim stories anyway. But just putting in some of those bookshelves that have like really old leather books on them, and a couple of those boxes of files and things like that. I also used that really cool lamp that came with Get to Work, I believe, that sort of looks like an old reporter's lamp. I've not found a chance to use that until this build, so really, really pleased with that. I do put a rug in here that covers the entire floor. I'm kind of regretting it. You'll see here in a minute when I put it down. It just covers the entire thing, and I don't know, it's not necessarily my favorite, so I think if I do go back in and change this build any, I will take that rug out. You're seeing me experiment with a couple of different ones, but I sized up that one Victorian sort of rug that came with vampires, I believe, and I do keep it there. I don't think I will keep it there I think I'm going to take it out. I realized that the hardwood underneath is what I really, really liked for this house, especially when it comes to like the warm, like dark study that this author has. So yeah, that was kind of a mistake on my part, but I do put another one of those cats and dogs chairs that works so well with this style in that room, and that's pretty much it for this study. And then you're going to see me do a little bit on the conservatory and onto the screenshots. So thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.